Hello there, my very good friends. On today's wrestling news, Keith Lee has explained his 5-month WWE absence.
We've got the real reason that Adam Page isn't on AEW All Out.
I'm going to tell you why CM Punk doesn't watch WWE.
And NXT talent are shocked that WWE turned down an AEW star. This is the news.
It is the news, and for the second day in a row, we're in a gosh darn studio.
Yay.
What is the world coming to? Everyone get your second jab so we can do this more often.
Yeah.
You, viewer, it's your fault.
Yeah, it's your fault we're not here.
Let's kick things off by talking about Keith Lee, who through various channels, his Twitter feed, his YouTube channel, came through with a 6-minute explanation video of his 5-month WWE absence. It's been something he's been building up to for a while. He's mentioned it on social media. Sit down and have a chat with you guys, explain what's been going on, because he was away from February to July, and he was off for a little bit in January as well, and a lot of questions surrounding the situation. It's nobody's business to pry on the matter, of course, so basically thank you, Keith Lee, for giving you your time and explaining the situation and running through everything. So the first absence he had in January, he explained he tested positive for COVID-19. He was sidelined for about 3 weeks. That's why he was off TV. And he credited Mia Yim, his fiance. She took time off to look after him and help him through the situation and everything else, and that ended up costing her spot in the Royal Rumble as well, an opportunity at the Royal Rumble. A selfless act, really. Just what a human being, indeed. Keith was also quick to point out, there was a lot of people when the situation happened, weirdos on social media going, Mia Yim, it's your fault, and all of this stuff, because there was talk of her coming into contact with people who tested positive and stuff. Not the case. Don't blame Mia Yim. If you did that, delete your account and listen to Big Keith. Anyway, he came back to TV. He wrestled that one match with Riddle in February. Absent again for 5 months. What happened? An actual quote here: "We fought death." Scary stuff, this. There was a heart issue that came up. Keith had some blood work done. Test came back, said there was something wrong with your blood. He found out he had inflammation of the heart. Bunch of MRI scans, quite humorously explained how it was tough for him to fit in because he's so broad into the machine and everything else. But, worryingly, and this is the scary part of this, he was told that you can't do anything physically beyond a light walk, as there's a chance you might pass away. That's terrifying stuff, especially for a 36-year-old professional athlete. He was on the verge of having some genetic tests done to kind of get to the root of the problem, but thankfully, as more scans emerged and he went through the process, the inflammation calmed down. It went away to the point he was cleared to compete, and now, of course, he's back on WWE TV. So, yeah, you should really check out the video. I've linked to it on the news report on our website. From the heart stuff. A horrifying battle here for Keith Lee, but obviously good to know he's back in good health, back on television, ready to go again. And yeah, if you're a twat to Mia Yim on social media at the start of all this, you are a twat.
Absolutely, the moral of the story. But yeah, scary stuff this. It still sounds like it's not fully explained, like you didn't know why this was happening, but just to be in that situation of oh my god, I don't know what's happening. If I go for more than a walk, I might just pass away. It just sounds absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, man.
So yeah, absolutely super glad that he's back to full health and back in wrestling doing what he loves. Can confirm he's a very lovely guy when he came over for WCPW. Just a really nice guy. So good to see him back on his feet, back doing what he loves in wrestling, and yeah, hopefully this doesn't come back again.
Yeah, man.
Sounds terrifying. But moving over to AEW and the real reason that Hangman Adam Page is not on All Out, and it is because, he's taking time off to spend with his family because he's just had his first kid. He hasn't had the kid, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
This is coming from PW Insider's Mike Johnson, saying that this was apparently always the plan. So they wrote him off TV with the big sort of 10-man match where he lost and then lost his winning streak in the number one contendership, and then the beatdown the following week. That was to write him off TV, and he's going to go off, he's going to spend some time being a dad and then come back at some point to reclaim the redemption arc of Adam Page, whenever that may be, but there's no word as of yet on when exactly that might be.
Yeah, kind of explains the recent booking, doesn't it?
Yep.
I think a lot of people were very surprised, myself included, by the outcome of that 10-man tag, but hey, the guy's having a kid. What are you going to do?
What are you going to do? Some things are more important.
Exactly. exactly.
And we'll bounce around back to this, and eventually we will get that big story where he wins the big one eventually. And it's just another beatdown on the road of his redemption arc. So
one last heartbreak, isn't it?
Storyline, I think, in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not like Tony Khan's going to sit there and go, "Hey, no, you can't have a kid. I need you for a title match." It's, priorities.
Or you've had a kid, now you're never getting the title again.
Yeah, see you later,
my
mate.
plans.
And speaking of priorities, one of CM Punk's priorities is not watching WWE, apparently. We're going to talk a little bit about his interview of the Sunday Night's Main Event podcast, which was great. Like, there's a really funny clip from it, if you've not seen it already, where he talks about the host, Jason Agnew, just straight up asks, "Are you going to be on Chicago on the 20th? Are you going to be at the show on the 20th of August?" And he's like, let me check my calendar here. No, I think we're doing a screening of episode 3 of Heels in a cinema. Of course you are, mate. He knows exactly what he's doing. But his comments on the modern WWE product, or what we're going to talk about today, they're not as spicy as you think they are, actually, given that CM Punk he's not shy, is he? He's not a shy guy. He said the following. "No, I had to watch it a little bit when I was an analyst for Fox, of course, on WWE Backstage. But I mean, how do I say this diplomatically? No. I think they've got some people who are super awesome and great in the ring, but nothing grabs me to get me to want to watch." And he went on a little bit saying, "I'm getting a little bit long in the tooth now. I'd rather uplift and show love to things I like rather than tear anything down." So, yeah, that's very fair, I think. Very fair. I think a lot of people are probably in the same boat with the WWE product. A lot of people would come out and go, "It's terrible, it's awful, I hate Vince and he's evil and all of this stuff." And, takes are flying all over the place, particularly at the moment. But I mean, people will be upset with that because it's someone who's not in WWE talking about not watching WWE. But he was asked about it and he answered. So
Absolutely.
There you go.
And I think that just that one line of "nothing excites me" kind of sums it up, and sums up quite a lot of people's feelings about WWE at the moment as well. So yeah, not as spicy as you might think from Punk in recent times. He's not exactly hidden away from his feelings on WWE in the past. But moving back over to AEW and Wheeler Yuta. Now this is coming from Fightful Select. It turns out he has recently had a WWE tryout, but got turned away, which is to the shock of at least 3 talents within the company. So yeah, it came up as a surprise because he seemingly ticks a lot of boxes over for sort of the NXT brand. This was back in May that he had the tryout. So he's like 6', he's really athletic, talented in the ring. He's had a bit of TV training before for Ring of Honor and New Japan Strong. Good looking guy, kind of ticks a lot of boxes. But no, he was turned away from the company. And it's kind of seen as an indicator within NXT of the kind of changes that may be coming within the future, with all these rumours about Vince McMahon getting his little fingers all over NXT. But this seems like one of the first indicators of where they may be heading with this, turning down a guy like Wheeler Yuta. But at the end of the day, WWE's loss is AEW's gain, and he's absolutely smashing it over there now. He's obviously aligned with the best friends, and now he's in amongst things with Matt Hardy and things like that on TV. So I think he's pretty much landed on his feet, to be fair.
Probably quite happy. Quite a happy guy. Interesting story this, for sure, because he would have been a really great fit for what we knew NXT was until like last week, basically. And he's done a really great job in AEW as well. Not much to add on top of what you've really said there, but like, for me, like, AEW's use of like these indie guys has been really cool recently. Daniel Garcia is the obvious other one, and I wonder if they'll continue that going forward. Just bringing these guys in from the indie scene who are, developing but phenomenally talented for their age, and giving them a platform to show what they can do. It's really cool. It's a great way to bring people through and everything else. I'm looking forward to seeing what Yuta and Garcia can do just in wrestling in general, because I'm a fan of both guys. But yeah, I'm not surprised that the roster or whoever else in NXT would be like, why haven't we signed this guy? He's really good. He's probably because he's not 7'8", I guess.
He fits the old mold for NXT, not the new mold for NXT.
Exactly. Now, let's head over to today's Twitter questions. I was going to say speaking of mold, but that'd be really rude. I'm sorry.
Thanks for taking the time out of your day to ask these questions. You mold.
Let's get to one of these moldy I'm joking, I'm only taking the piss. The first one here comes from Paul King, who asks the following. Regarding Christian versus Omega, do you feel that years of bad WWE writing has led to fans distrusting AEW anytime they don't do what the fans exactly expect? They have my trust to focus on long-term stories and not anger the fans, but I get that not everybody feels the same. I think this is a really good point and touches on like a wider debate. A lot of folk, younger fans in particular, and this isn't shade or anything, it's just what you come through watching when you're younger, will have only known WWE. If you're, I don't know, like 25 years old, and you got into wrestling when you were 6 or 7. In America, WWE was the mainstream organization. There was no real competition. So people are used to the WWE way of doing things and think, hey, that's all wrestling. So AEW has had this job where they've had to recondition people that that's not the case. And with Christian Omega, I think that's particularly relevant.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of people tar AEW with WWE's brush, which isn't 100% fair all the time. Like in Ups and Downs with Miller, he has a thing where, like, obviously he has the counters for like distraction finishes and DQs and roll-ups for WWE, and it's said like you can't do that immediately with AEW because WWE's been doing this for 25 years. They've kind of conditioned us into this thing where we never get clean finishes, and then AEW has one non-clean finish and everyone's like, why aren't you judging them the same? It's because it's not the same. It's not. They've been going for 2 years, WWE's been going for 40 or whatever, and they've been doing it forever. So yeah, you've got to give them their own space to live and die and away from what WWE always do.
Absolutely. Our second question today comes from Cy Hawks, who asks the following. Are we concerned that Punk might not be overly bothered with wrestling anymore and is just moving with AEW for the dollars? I don't think he's ever said AEW is exciting or even good since its inception. This concerns me because I want to see a Punk who believes in the product. I think valid concern, one that would be echoed by a lot of people, but CM Punk strikes me as the guy who's never going to half-ass something. When he went into MMA, he trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for like a year or whatever with Duke Rufus. He immersed himself in that world. He's just not the kind of guy I ever see mailing it in. So while the money's probably pretty nice, it's probably a pretty nice factor, I think he's going to be all right.
Yeah, absolutely. I think like the MMA thing, he moved his family to a different state. He bought a house near the training place so he could specifically train with this one guy. Like he threw himself all into it. And with the wrestling, yes, he has said that a tasty paycheck would help to bring him back, but he's also always said that it's got to be the right creative and the right time and the right sort of stories as well. So I don't think he'd come back just to half-ass it. He doesn't seem like the kind of guy who would be into that. He's probably got all the money he would ever need for the rest of his life now. I don't think it's all just about the money, so he's got to have his heart set on it as well.
Very proud guy, CM Punk, very proud guy. And our final question today comes from Nathan Gonzalez, bit of a lighter one here for a Friday, who asks the following. What are your favourite pizza toppings, Phil Chambers?
Olives. I just love olives on pizza. Olives and sun-dried tomatoes, and you can be done all day, and that's it, yeah.
Absolutely. I'm a boring guy. My philosophy is, when I go to... Philosophy, what a dope. When I go to a new pizza place that's got a good reputation, I like to try the margherita. I like to see if they can nail the basics. But beyond that, I'm a pepperoni guy, and I'm an Nduja guy as well. I love that spicy salami paste. However, famously, WhatCulture pizza trip, one of the last few pizza trips we went to, had Doritos on their pizza. You'll remember that. And it was absolutely atrocious. So
I had 10 things on my pizza that time, which was also a mistake.
The slice you couldn't lift, if I recall. What an adventure.
Also as well, just as important as the topping is the dough, though. You've got to get the bread right.
Oh, absolutely. People underrate the dough. It's like, if the stuff on the top, if you've bought buffalo mozzarella and DOP tomatoes, beautiful ingredients on the top, but you're eating it off cardboard.
Yeah, ruins the whole thing.
Get your act together.
The whole thing. You can't just rate it on the toppings.
Exactly. You can't use Hovis for a pizza base. And finally, we're going to go to a couple of wrestlers here, Aria Daivari and Kevin Matthews, former Impact wrestler Kevin Matthews. Twitter exchange here. Daivari had tweeted saying, talking about Bill DeMott, that famously well-loved guy, calling, Daivari does the magic carpet ride, the top rope splash where he puts a carpet underneath him and flies off the top rope.
I mean, it's Prince Amin's move, let's not forget that.
There we go. There we go. Shouts to Prince Amin. Talking about how Bill DeMott didn't like him doing that. He called it indie BS. Kevin Matthews has quote tweeted that with a funny story about Kenny Omega, saying the following. Bill also told Kenny Omega at Deep South Wrestling, WWE Developmental, to not do any cool moves and work a body part. Omega worked his opponent's ass. He won with an atomic drop off the second rope. Bill said, so the body part you chose to work was, Kenny replied, the ass, Bill, the ass. So if there's ever in doubt, you know, if you're ever sitting there wondering about Kenny Omega's wrestling philosophy, psychology, everything else, he worked the ass.
Absolutely loved it. The thing about just how good a pro wrestler Kenny Omega was. Even way back then, he's like, with all that, he's like, yeah, F you, I'm going to work the ass, Bill.
Yeah, screw you, Bill. Let us know. Actually, no, don't let us know what body part you... That would get really weird.
Let us know your pizza topping.
Yeah, pizza. What do you like on your pizza? Do you like pepperoni? Do you like cheese? Do you like cats? Let us know down in the comments section below. Find us on Twitter at WhatCulture WWE. Find Phil on Twitter at
Phil My Chambers, and find Andy at.
Find me at Andy H Murray. The H today stands for horn work, which means cuckoldry. Goodbye.